Hit as a target if I move around a little bit. Welcome to our distinguished visitors and our veterans and all of you who support them, because as important as the veterans are and as important as the sacrifice of our service member, it's not about them and it's not about me, it's about this great nation. And the nation is comprised of people. People who go to work every day, people who raise their children, people who love their families. I am so blessed in my particular small chunk of that life to have this beautiful woman in the front row that I can call my wife. She humbles and honors the Lord. Thank goodness for her crappy taste in men. Now, I must say, though, this is a tough act to follow. That was very impressive.
Amen.
Both of our awesome singers. Can we give them another round of applause? So I thought I would just share a few things with you from my experience in service, things that have crystallized what I have done and what we have done as a nation of veterans and as a nation of servants. Those things seem insignificant when we add them up separately, but when we roll them up together, somehow we seem to have that very important thread, that important golden thread that ties it all together. For instance, as a very young B-52 crew member, flying out of Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane, Washington, we did something back then called Global Nuclear Alert. The fancy name for that was the SIOP, the Single Integrated Operational Plan. And that was the prospect of the horror of nuclear war. So we would sit in our, adjacent to our aircraft for a week at a time, and if the nation went to war, we would launch and wreak destruction on some other nation. Let's grab one at random. Let's say Russia. Yeah. So it happened to be Thanksgiving morning, Thursday. And I don't know why it is, but we always changed over an alert on Thursdays. And I was driving to alert about 6 in the morning. It was still dark out at Fairchild, and it was snowing. So it was a cold day, and I've got to tell you, where do you really want to be on Thanksgiving? You're driving to go take a week of alert in an aircraft, or at home with your family having a beautiful day together and that wonderful turkey dinner and everything else going on. What encapsulated it further, as I got to the base, there was a large demonstration at the main gate saying, "Get the bomb out of Spokane." And I will tell you, this young captain at the time was just a little on tilt. And I got processed into the alert facility and grabbed a cup of coffee. And my old crusty aircraft commander, they're always smarter than you, he sat down next to me and he said, "What's wrong with you? You looked a little upset." And I said, "You live off base too. You drove through the gate. You saw that too. You're not upset?" And he said, "Captain, never lose sight of your mission. You see, the sole reason you're here is so that they can be there." And it changed my life, that little statement, because it's not about me and my opinions. It's about this weird, fuzzy thing called freedom. That shiny light in the corner of a dark room that people all over this world would give anything to share in, because we provide it in this great nation by the sacrifices of people. People like a young Marine, Sergeant Peralta, who Denise and I had the rare opportunity to go down to San Diego for the bringing to life of the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the Peralta, recognizing this young man. This young man, an immigrant to this nation whose mother still doesn't speak English, was in Iraq, mortally wounded, but he didn't know that, when a grenade landed in his battle position. And rather than cower in fear, he cuddled that grenade close to his chest and he saved all his comrades in arms that day. When I think of the contributions of a man like that, in this great nation, it just humbles me. When I think of a man like, in the Air Force, we just call him Pitts. Pitsenbarger. Airman Pitsenbarger in Vietnam. Airman Pitsenbarger, you see, was not what we would call the classic airman or the classic soldier or the classic military member. He was a bit of a ladies' man. He maybe enjoyed one or two adult beverages too much. But one day he got the word that there was an army unit that had been overwhelmed by North Vietnamese regulars. And they needed to fly medevac. You see, Pitts was a pararescueman. Their patch was very simple. It simply said, "So that others may live." He jumped into that helicopter with his medical gear and his weapon, and he was taken into that hot LZ. And he immediately jumped out of that helicopter and started to care for wounded soldiers. As the helicopter returned to retrieve the wounded, he refused to be extracted with those soldiers. He said, "There's more injured down here, I'm staying." They say after the third time that he refused to be pulled out with a helicopter that he was supposed to be on each of those 3 times is when he took his first round. He continued to serve by caring for those soldiers. He still turned down multiple exfils while he cared for those soldiers because they were comrades in arms, and this nation was in a fight. They found Pitts' remains the following day, clutching onto his kit in one hand and his weapon in the other. Gave his life and earned the Medal of Honor for this great nation. As just a simple airman, kind of a womanizer, liked an adult beverage too much, but served this great nation with passion and dedication, with that motto on his patch, "So that others may live." The stories go on forever. A story I'd like to leave you with also is one of shortly after the devastation of Pearl Harbor. Our submarine corps needed to hold the front for this great nation in the Pacific theater. And a particular submarine, the Argonaut, went to sea and had a particular chief on board, Chief Jenkins. Chief Jenkins in Hawaiian culture is my Hanai grandfather. Chief Jenkins and the submarine Argonaut are still on patrol. They were lost somewhere near the shores of Rubble, still serving this great nation. Just a sailor, serving this amazing country. You know, when I think of those that have gone before me, when I think of what we did yesterday, we had an opportunity to come out here and recognize people from various conflicts and eras, and that our veterans are not restricted by a time or a phase or a conflict or a war. They're restricted only by their dedication and passion to this amazing country. And when I think about what they have done, it's absolutely dwarfing to me. When I think about the fact that in my day job affiliated with a production plant and a major research installation at Edwards Air Force Base, we produce some amazing weapon systems out there. But the most awesome weapon system in this nation is a scared to death 18-year-old American with a rifle in his hand, who simply salutes smartly and says, "Yes, sir, I will go to war. I will hold the line for this nation." It's said that the night before the Battle of Waterloo, the Duke of Wellington was talking to his advisor, Sir Thomas Creevey, and in a moment of near desperation said, "What do I do to succeed against this juggernaut called Napoleon?" And Sir Thomas Creevey is said to have pointed to a lone British sentry leaning on a weapon and say, "That is our commodity. You give us enough of that, and they hold, we will prevail." That's what it's about. The individual soldier, sailor, airman, marine, who makes those day-to-day sacrifices for this amazing nation. That is what we recognize today. So as we wrap up, I want to tell you that we are not perfect as veterans. We are not perfect as military members. As a matter of fact, something I have done a little research on, I do have that doctorate degree. So somebody said I was smart. I have determined, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that our military members have a crappy command of the English language. They simply do not know how to say no. You see, we took a bunch of airmen and we put them in bombers and we stuck them on an aircraft carrier and we said, we need you to bomb Tokyo, and oh, by the way, you're not going to have the ability to reach land after that strike. And Colonel Doolittle, we need you to do it knowing that if you're captured, you'll probably be killed. This is clearly a one-way mission. And those airmen said, yes, sir. We went to our Marines and we said, there's a reservoir in Korea called Chosin. You'll be absolutely isolated there and you're running out of ammunition and food. But it's a critical position and you have to hold it. And they said, yes, sir. We went to our soldiers at a place called Little Round Top in Gettysburg. And we said, this absolutely has to be held even though you have completely run out of ammunition. And that young citizen soldier, Lieutenant Colonel Chamberlain, called for an attack and dominated a Confederate force attacking the enemy with no bullets in their weapons because they had run out. And all those soldiers simply said, yes, sir. We asked that young sailor to get on that submarine after Pearl Harbor, knowing that the likelihood of coming home was slim. And that young sailor said, yes, sir. And we asked our Coast Guardsmen to go out, but we never said they had to come back. And they simply said, yes, sir. So in summation, let me just say, our veterans make sacrifices every day for us. And they make those sacrifices not because we say thank you. They make those sacrifices because we, as a nation, are great. And we are worthy of a fight. And we will hold this line towards greatness and freedom till God calls us all home. This, ladies and gentlemen, this, what we have here today, is worth fighting for. Thank you so very much.